So, why do we care about some animals more than we do about others? It's easy to empathize with, let's say, pandas, otters, polar bears, creatures we see in animations, documentaries, plush toys, and viral videos. But what about the species that we might have never seen before? Hi, I'm Alice, and I explored how interaction design can help with species conservation and awareness through European Mink's case study. Before we start, who is European Mink? When I started this project, I knew about European minks, very little, and had never seen them before. But this photo is taken by me turning this project, which means I've had once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to actually have close encounters with these amazing creatures. They are very curious, super fun, although timid, but they are amazing to observe. And if you do have this close connection with them, it's hard not to fall in love with them. European mink is one of the most endangered mammals in Europe. It used to be widespread across the continent. Now only 3% of the historical range remains, which is less than 500 individuals in the wild. Unlike the American mink, who is the invasive species introduced for fur farming and released into wild by activists, European mink is a native species. It's elusive and struggles to survive due to habitat loss, competition, and a lot of different human activities. Raising awareness has proven to be a huge challenge. That's where the European Mink's breeding program comes in, or EEP, my partner for this project. It started right here in Tallinn over 40 years ago, and now involves multiple zoos across Europe working together to protect and reintroduce these species. Tallinn Zoo plays a key role in this program with one of the most successful long-term captive breeding initiatives in the world. They have about 100 individuals in the breeding program. Actually, currently it's a baby season, so their numbers are up. Additionally, European mink went extinct in Estonia in the 90s, but they have been rehabilitated to the islands of Hiiumaa and Saaremaa by this very program. Yet people remain unaware of this species and its struggles. Not even zoo visitors recognize them, even though the European mink's enclosure is set up there. It is critically endangered, yet almost no one's heard of it. It's not just disappearing from the wild, it's disappearing from our awareness. And that invisibility might be its greatest threat today. Yes, so the problem. The program expressed right off the bat that their biggest problem they need help with is the lack of public awareness, which means the lack of support in saving this species. They have tried different solutions, like the Mink Day and other endeavors to raise the awareness, at least among the zoo goers. But the European mink's invisibility, both physical and social, makes it incredibly hard to empathize with, because people don't support what they don't know exists. Even with decades of dedicated conservation work at Tallinn Zoo, public awareness remains shockingly low. I realized the real challenge wasn't about education, it was about the connection. And so I was on a mission to find out why previous efforts have not been successful and how might we design success this time. At Tallinn Zoo, I went and observed visitors' behaviors, and I found something telling. Visitors walked past the mink enclosure without stopping. No curiosity, no interaction, just seemingly empty cage. Because European mink's active time of the day is after visiting hours. So I asked, can we design empathy for species we'll likely never meet in the wild? As an interaction designer, I've been trained to design for humans, But I wondered, could we use the same design tools to serve other species? Could empathy be designed not just towards users, but beyond them? Could design amplify voices that aren't human? I didn't want to create another forgotten info board or a zoo lecture. I wanted to create moments. Small interactions that spark curiosity first, emotion or empathy second, learning third, and hopefully action from there. I believe it's mostly linear process and each phase needs to be completed before we move on to the next one. My aim wasn't just to share facts, it was to start building a relationship. And to understand how people might form that relationship, I started with immersive research. I observed hundreds of zoo visitors' behaviors, especially in front of enclosures where animals might not be visible. I had meetings with conservation specialists from Estonia, France, Spain, and Chile. I held a co-creation workshop with Tallinn Zoo Youth Club, whose insights shaped the tone and the media formats. Youth showed a strong preference for formats that let them explore and experience, rather than just listen. And they expressed, I want to touch the animal, even if it's a stuffed version, or walk into their habitat. Again and again, I saw that people wanted to interact. They didn't stop for text, they stopped for something surprising, something sensory. So one insight stood out: data alone doesn't move people, emotion does. And emotion starts with interactions. Even when something is visible, like at the zoo, it doesn't guarantee engagement. The conservation specialists kept echoing the same point, that data is vital, but it's empathy that drives real-world support and fundings. Empathy is not automatic. It must be invited. People are drawn to touch, narrative, and play. Kids often lead engagement, pulling their parents in with them. And perhaps most importantly, what I saw, that learning happens after curiosity was triggered and emotion was created. Just static signs do not work and are ignored. And so my first design goal became clear: create that moment of pause, that spark that makes people stop and ask, what is this, or who is this? When we look at different conservation projects like habitat loss campaigns for orangutans or polar bears, or campaigns against poaching rhinos for tusks and hunting sharks for fins, they all have one thing in common. The focus is on the problem these species are facing and what we can do to help them. But did you notice I didn't have to introduce any of these species? You already know who they are, unlike with European mink. With the mink, we are unfortunately not at this stage of conservation, and I believe before we can start nudging public to action, we need them to know who we're talking about and have them already emotionally invested in them. To care, people first need to notice. I realized I had to interpret people's routines, grab their attention, and offer a reason to stop. That's where interaction comes in. It can transform a passive stroll past the cage into a moment of connection. But how do you give presence to an invisible animal? The answer wasn't showing the European mink directly, but in designing around its absence. So for the first phase, I developed the physical prototype to simulate tactile closeness. After the success of these testings, I started moving into the next phase, which is learning, and for that I designed a digital prototype guiding visitors through a non-linear journey filled with narrative, audio, and video. Although this solution is still in very early stages, together these prototypes aim to make the mink feel real without needing to exploit the animal itself. Okay. This is real.
There's an animal you've probably never seen. Not because it's not there, but because it hides. Silent, nocturnal, forgotten. The European mink is one of the most endangered mammals in Europe, and yet most people don't even know they exist. Without empathy, there is no true awareness. Without awareness, there is no protection. And without protection, this species will disappear. So how do you care for something you cannot see? We asked, can design make the invisible visible? Can we create moments that make people stop and feel something? A mysterious trail appeared in Tallinn Zoo. Blue silhouettes, QR code signs. Those who noticed discovered more than just facts. They found a story, a hidden world. The mink wasn't just in a cage anymore. It was with them on this journey, accompanying their discoveries and laughter, and hopefully in the stories they take home with them. Some animals roar to be heard, this one doesn't. But maybe, if we design right moments, someone will stop, someone will listen, and someone will care.
Here we are. Okay. So what you just saw is not just a tool, it was an invitation to feel, to wonder, and hopefully to care. Okay. So this is an actual nest box they use in the breeding program, and it's the one you can see in the enclosure as well. The nest box is a multisensory prototype. One of the chambers lets you peek into the nest and see the baby mink's imagery. The other invites you to pet the fox mink in the through the dark hole entry. And the messages on the box are playful but informative, like dare to put your hand in, or peek inside to discover what the nature ninja is up to. I installed this in front of the real mink enclosure. It captured attention where the actual animal could not. It felt like natural mystery, and it worked. People stopped, they interacted, they laughed, they talked. I observed multiple families come up to the box very serious or even lacking emotion, and leaving the interaction laughing and talking about the mink or the experience they just had. And it wasn't just attractive to families with small children, it was also an interesting interaction for teens and adults alike. And the average interaction time was 44 seconds, which is significant for zoo setting. For the learning, I created the digital prototype, the European Mink Trail, which is a narrative-driven treasure hunt. Visitors scan the QR code blue mink silhouettes hidden around the zoo. And instead of static text boards, people could unlock stories told through different mediums. Each stop unfolds the mink story piece by piece in a way that felt more playful yet meaningful. The digital trail mirrors recurring behavior I noticed among the zoo visitors, where they would play this find on the photo by each enclosure. And here we rewarded that behavior with knowledge and hopefully emotion. The treasure wasn't candy, it was context, understanding, and connection. There are currently 3 stops, but many can be added and content could be switched out seasonally. The results confirmed the power of interaction. The nest box had a strong impact, especially with families. Children often leading the way, going back again and again to the nest box. Over 56% of visitors who encountered the physical prototype engaged with it. They laughed, they read out loud, and lingered longer than the average zoo visit pace. The digital prototype, however, saw curiosity but needed stronger call to action. Without staff encouragement and framing, people hesitated to scan, although the numbers show that they did scan. But testing showed one thing clearly: the desire to engage was there. We just needed to make it easier to act upon. And I learned again that visibility alone isn't enough. Invitation matters. Future possibilities for these solutions. Since the program has shown interest in both of the solutions, iterations are planned. The physical prototype gets upgraded from just the image to a screen where different European Mink videos can be looped. The next steps for the digital prototype need to be more iterations, more testing, and then possibly expansions. More steps could be added. For example, European versus American mink checkers game by the Rainforest Cafe, where people stop and have this kind of more pause time. And this could be a physical or a digital solution as well. The content also needs to be tested more, perhaps lean heavier into only audio, video, and visual basis. The treasure hunt game could evolve into 2 parallel paths, one for children and one for adults, guided by maybe a common character called N, the European Mink. And each of these paths would be then appropriate content and messaging. So for example, in the audio stop, we could have more informative interview for adults and maybe a sweet fairy tale for kids. We could do seasonal updates, collectible milestones, and even event-based rewards. And the digital solution should be incorporated into event days where a clearer call to action has proven better engagement for games at the zoo. Nudging public to action is the next phase. That could be incorporated into the digital solution as well. And this is definitely the direction I hope it's going to take. This solution could even be adapted to other species because the module is scalable and hopefully builds habits of caring. But again, why does it matter? This work isn't just about the European mink, it's about shifting how we relate to the non-human worlds. Designing empathy isn't just about turning people into conservationists overnight. It's about creating moments that plant the seed. If a child remembers the European mink and tells a friend, or a parent lingers one story longer, then just maybe we have started to shape the future perspectives on conservation efforts, and that's definitely a win. Tallinn Zoo breeding program needs this visibility, so do other countless species. It's about what design can do when we stop centering only humans. This project shows that interaction design can contribute to ecological literacy and conservation, not by replacing the science, but by amplifying its emotional resonance. And when we talk about reflections, most of all, this project has had the biggest impact on me and the way I think. I now believe that interaction design can and should support more than human futures. It made me realize that design isn't about solving problems, it's about shaping relationships. And empathy, true empathy, can be designed, not through facts, but through feelings, not through presence, but through storytelling. And if we can make people care about this shy, unseen species like European mink, maybe, just maybe, we can also redesign the future of conservation itself. Because empathy isn't just a tool, it's a responsibility, and the work doesn't end here. Thank you.